I'm Stewart Lee, I'm a comedian, and I'm on my way to Faversham in Kent to meet the artist Rose Wylie. I was very surprised that Rose Wylie had asked to meet me. I thought there'd been some kind of mistake. And I looked at her work, I thought it was really great, and I couldn't think what she might imagine she'd want to talk to me about. And then I remembered when I saw a photo of her, I'd actually met her about 5 years ago. She came to one of my shows. She knew someone that I knew, and we had a drink at the bar afterwards, and what I remember about her is she had the most fantastic, brightly coloured training shoes on, which seemed at odds with a person of her age. Not that they should do, but I'm interested to see what she wants to talk about, and it's going to be a great privilege, I think, to see her studio and see her in action.
The painter Rose Wylie meets the comedian Stewart Lee.
Hello, Rose. Nice to see you again. How are you?
Rose Wylie won the John Moores Painting Prize in 2014 at the age of 80 and was elected a Royal Academician in 2015, winning the Charles Wollaston Award in their summer exhibition that year for Most Distinguished Work. Her direct, brightly coloured, playful paintings draw on popular culture, football and film. However, the art critic Brian Sewell once dismissed one of her pictures as a daub worthy of a child of 4. Her latest show, Quack Quack, opens at the Serpentine Gallery in London tomorrow.
It ended in an argument about fish. Did you know that?
Stewart Lee is a stand-up comedian, writer and director. He was one half of the comedy duo Lee and Herring alongside Richard Herring. He co-wrote and co-directed Jerry Springer the Opera, which won 4 Laurence Olivier Awards, including Best New Musical in 2004. In December 2011, Stewart won British Comedy Awards for Best Male Television Comic and Best Comedy Entertainment Programme for his series Stewart Lee's Comedy Vehicle.
Half an hour ago I thought, well, just look up and see what you did in The Observer last week.
Oh yeah, it wasn't me last week.
And you weren't in it.
No, well, I'm the fill-in for David Mitchell.
I
but
see.
then luckily, he's not there about half the year. But do you know what? If I was permanent, I wouldn't be able to do it because I'd think I'd have to do it properly. But because
I understand.
Because I think I'm
responsibilities.
because I think I'm the fill-in.
Much better.
I can mess around with it.
I love being a fill-in.
Yeah, I know.
I like not existing.
Yeah. But if I actually was the Observer's proper columnist,
it wouldn't be good.
I'd have to write more sensible things, because I think I could be sacked or just laid off at any minute. It doesn't matter. It's funny, isn't it?
Interesting parallel. I've always tried to do, if you do something called dinner for friends, you've got to stop it tipping over into their thinking it's a dinner party.
Yeah.
If it becomes a dinner party, the whole thing goes to pieces because it's too serious.
Yeah.
It's too, it's formal.
Yeah.
But if you can manage to do it like they're not there, like you're just at home by yourself, and I've never quite managed to do it like I'm by myself.
Well, do you do it with your work, though? Pretend it's not your work?
No, I don't, but I pretend I don't really know or exist. I have no place.
Yeah.
I was the youngest child of 7, and I have no place.
Right.
And I've still got no place.
The way I get around it with touring, to pretend that I'm not doing shows, is I always sell books and DVDs afterwards. So I think it's mainly that I run a sort of shop that travels around the country, and I have to do a thing before it. And that stops me thinking that it's a show. And also, when I get there now, at 7 o'clock at Leicester Square Theatre, I've probably got up, taken the kids to school, done some stuff in the daytime, got them home, done all that, given them their tea, tried to do homework, got on the bus at 6. Yeah, I know. And when I step on stage, I think, now I can do what I want for 2 hours, so it's not like work.
But painting isn't doing what you want, that's the trouble.
Right.
It's kind of after you've done it, it can be what you want, but not when you're starting and not when you're doing it. I don't know. I couldn't perform anyway. I'm very envious that you can perform.
Well, yeah, but it looks
It's
to
about
me...
painting, you don't perform. You perform with the painting, and then that's
you're doing a real-time
by yourself.
improvisation, though, aren't you?
Yeah, but you're by yourself, you see. You're not in front of an audience. I remember going to one of your what do you call them? What do you call your show?
Yeah.
I went to one, and you said it's the audience that kills us. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I can see that.
But if you're not performing, how do you decide what to do next? Because some of what I do depends on what's happening in the room. So I create a dialogue between me and the audience. And I sometimes try to make the audience more oppositional than they are, really, so that they provoke me to do other things. Yeah, do you have to sort of split your brain? Do you have to have a discussion with yourself?
Comes at you.
Yeah.
It's anything at all. It could be something on the train or something on the telly, something in the film it just comes at you off the newspaper.
Right,
Picture.
right.
You see, that's nice, and you sort of think, I might do that.
So you're in a relationship with
With
the
the
things
stuff.
that are with the
Everything,
stuff,
really.
Yeah.
And a critical position of what your stuff turns out to be.
And
Sometimes you don't
accidents?
like it.
Well, accidents in the process as well.
Accidents are fine. Chance, accidents, all of that.
Right.
I mean, your chance coming here.
Yeah.
Because someone said, who would you like? As soon as I'm asked a direct question, I have no answer. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I can't answer a question. Most unfortunate.
Well, how's this going to work then?
I know, that's all right, because this is a chat.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah, do you want to go? We're going to have coffee.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's have some coffee. I've got biscuits.
This isn't a piece of work either, so we're in the clear.
Something in between.
Yeah, great.
I like in between.
Yeah.
Metaphysical. Was it?
Well, if you say so, Rose, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I think so. Also, you're kind of good. Did you do literature
I did.
at Oxford?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I was
good.
just looking, you've got Edgar Allan Poe there, Tales of Mystery. I love looking at people's bookshelves, and
Yeah, I know,
and you know
people
what?
love it.
You can't anymore. You can't walk into anyone's place now and make a judgment about them because all their stuff's on computer files. So you have to.
Yeah,
you have
I'm
to,
open to judgment.
Yeah, I know you can work it out from what's there.
Yeah. Look at that typography there
Yeah.
for that Hitler spine. It's just superb.
yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
such a good image.
Yeah.
But then this may not be mine. You see, some of this is mine and some of this is my husband.
Well, you've chosen to keep it on display.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then I don't move anything.
No.
I'm a
I
non-moving.
can see that.
And I pile up. You can
around
see I do. This is the pile up.
Yeah, your notice board is layers deep with drawing pins sticking things over top of each other, which isn't unlike the work actually as well, isn't it?
No,
Because
it's
you
the
like
same.
to
No, I do stack
keep
up.
adding
It's
to it, yeah.
exactly like the work.
yeah.
That's what some people like about it, that the life and the person just are in the work. The work's just an extension.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's the interesting thing about this room. Your notice board with everything's piled up on it, then the notice board spreads out onto the wall.
That's right.
And then there's a point over here where when the notice board becomes the work.
Yeah,
over there.
Also, there's a snag because the cat likes to jump onto that cupboard, and he drags it down, and then I don't know where they are because they're in chronological order.
So the cat is disrupting the process.
The cat does, yes.
So the cat's a collaborator as well, in a way,
Yes,
just by
he's-
introducing a bit of chaos to it.
Yeah, that's...
What's the cat called?
The cat's Pete,
Right,
yes.
right.
Come on, Pete. Pete's a rescue cat.
Is he?
Deeply affectionate.
Yeah. Oh,
He
great.
wants to be picked up.
Yeah. I couldn't live without a cat. I find life
Yeah, I love them.
empty without cats.
This is very nice because haven't you got a show tonight?
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Well, it's nice to have
I'm
a
honoured,
change
mate.
of scene to come out in the day.
I'm honoured. I love this word honour. I never use it, but I hear other people using it.
You can use that. That's good.
I was asked to do a description why you've picked Stewart Lee. Doesn't have
Well,
to.
I'm surprised.
Doesn't have to be long. They said. Yeah. Well, do you want to know one of the kind of fun things
Yeah,
about
all
it?
right, yeah.
Henrietta, my daughter, said that the last time she goes a lot.
Yeah.
The last time I went, he said something. She said, but the thing was, I laughed so much, I didn't know whether to pee or shit or sick up. And I said, well, at least, in a sense, marvellous, excellent.
Right.
I
Well, I
read-
might use that as a quote on a poster.
Yeah, I
That's
thought,
good,
and
isn't it?
also that you're cathartic.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
everything had come out. Maybe you don't like cathartic.
Well,
What does it mean? What does cathartic mean? Does it mean getting everything out?
sort of purging, isn't it? I mean,
Purge out. Yeah, that's
well, I like to
exactly
try
what it
and-
was. You were purging.
Yeah. I like to try and get them into a state of sort of hysteria, where it's not
Yeah, that's
really
right. She
relevant.
didn't know what she was going to do.
Yeah, it's not really relevant where the.
But it wasn't her mind, it was her body, you see.
Was it? Her
Her
body
body
was
was
it?
reacting, but she didn't know.
Well, do you know what? That's a funny thing about comedy, isn't it? 'Cause it's involuntary on some level. Your response, it's not necessarily an intellectual response. It's sort of
But it
you
isn't.
kind
Do
of
you know
lose
that
control.
from the philosophical position, which is shudder? There are two philosophical positions which are interesting, and one is shudder,
Right.
and there's a second one which is related, but I don't know what you might think of it while we're talking.
Right.
It
Yeah.
could be yawn. Yawn is good because it's boredom
Right.
and
Yeah.
involuntary. But anyway, all of her responses were body and not
Okay.
intellectual. Me saying excellent is intellectual. They left. Shakespeare, smashing.
Yeah,
I thought
they
I
left.
just loved the whole I love connections.
But have you?
I love chance connections. You never
Okay.
get your coffee, you know. I I get flowers given from people, and I like the look of them. I like the paper. Good,
Is that
isn't it?
jit, that one?
Might be.
Yeah.
So I keep them. After a time, I won't be able to. I'll have to throw something away.
Hey, presumably a lot of what you've been working on's gone to the Serpentine, has it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Empty, nothing here.
Oh, right.
No, but I've got a show in the spring, so work is being done for that. I'm doing Lolita.
Hmm?
I'm doing Lolita.
Oh, are you? Oh. Hey, I'm going to put my hearing aids in, because I'm a bit deaf. And
I'm
there's-
deaf.
Are you?
But I've got hearing aid on.
I've got them on. I'm going to put mine in now.
What sort have you got?
I'll show you.
Little. Have you got little? Did you pay a lot for them?
I've got these.
Oh, mine are very small.
Yeah. I've had them for 4 years, so they might have gone to smaller technology.
Did you pay
now.
for them? Or did
No,
you get them
NHS.
On the NHS?
Yeah, did you pay for yours?
Yes.
You've got better ones then.
I don't know, they're smaller. They're not necessarily better, but I had to get them very fast.
Oh, right.
My husband was dying and his voice was getting lower and lower, and he said, look, you can't hear, get something for your ears
Right.
and just go and pay for them.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Did you find it made an amazing difference to
No.
your... No.
No, they're always falling out.
Okay, when I put them on, I feel like I'm a wolf or something, or some kind of wild creature. I can hear birds and the sound of rivers and things. It just seems...
I don't think I ever have mine in properly. Ever. I don't think they've ever.
Right.
Can you hear yourself eat?
Yeah, I don't like that. I
No,
can
I
hear myself
hate it.
breathe. I mean, you have... And
I
the
don't
first thing I heard was I put them in for the first time. My daughter sat on a seat, and I could hear the sound of the fabric moving on the seat, and I realised I hadn't heard anything like that for
You've
decades.
been deaf.
Yeah, without
from the
knowing
womb,
it.
perhaps.
Yeah. And then, you know, in my act, I sort of make out that it's not going as well as I thought it should be. I get annoyed with the audience, there's not enough laughs. Well, when I put them in, I realised...
You didn't hear.
I know.
You didn't hear them laughing.
I didn't hear them laughing as much as I thought they should. And then I created this character of a perpetually disappointed
So-
performer. But in fact, it was as a result, because I couldn't hear the room. And now I put them in, right, and I can hear exactly how well it's going, which is even better.
Huge applause.
I know, but also...
Now you feel very successful.
Yeah, but I
there
really
because-
know when the
no, but then
silence
that
is
feels
on.
very successful, and then that could actually make you spiral down because you don't,
Take my foot off the gas.
Yeah,
It's
but you can-
complacent.
perhaps you work better when you are being neglected or not.
Well,
I mean, some people
don't
are.
you think we all do, though? I mean, because then you've still got something to prove, don't you? You've still got something to prove, or no one's checking up on you. And I don't understand how young kids today do anything, because their first bit of work, someone films it or writes about it on the internet.
It's distracting.
within-
You get the wrong idea of life.
Yeah, no,
It's bad.
yeah. But then you were the opposite end of the spectrum, because you were late in life, weren't you, when you were
That's what's
acclaimed?
good,
Yeah, I think so.
because you didn't have any kind of anybody looking at what you were doing, and they hadn't got the slightest interest.
Yeah.
So you only relied on yourself, and that's good because that's all you've got anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is there to rely on but yourself?
Nothing in the end.
No.
No.
Well, there's history of art. There's kind of, you know, all sorts of standards of this and that, but in a sense, there's nothing else. So you're stuck with it. And if you get just left out, constantly marginalised, I mean, you don't exist.
But then you're free.
You are free.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
I
it's
think-
much harder to not exist now. It's much harder to...
Yeah.
It's also harder because if you're any sort of artist or writer or performer, even in a fairly lowbrow field like me, you're also expected to be a personality and to use social media to market yourself and to give lots of your personality away as a kind of incentive for people
You're
to
not
come and...
lowbrow.
Well,
That's the thing, because you're in a situation which is, you know, what is it called? Stand up. What is your title?
I'm a stand-up comedian, and
Is that
I
what it's
resist
called?
any other categorisation
Yeah,
because I think
okay.
it's useful to be...
Yeah, but that has less status than in fact you are,
Well,
because you'll say right, and your stand-up.
yeah, but I prefer to be called
Performance,
that
isn't-
because I think you can get into places that... Okay, if I said to the
You
public...
can manoeuvre more.
Yeah, I mean, if I said, come and see a pretentious show in which a man critiques his own relationship with the audience through the format of comedy, hundreds of people would go, oh, that's not for me. But if I say it's just stand-up comedy, then they come. So you disguise it, don't you? You can just disguise it as a sort of...
Yes, well, you don't want ooh la highfalutin language, do you? I mean, you don't want too much knowledge. I don't think. But then you've got a lot, probably. I mean, I imagine you have.
I love your when you've put the Brian Saul reviewing. I like the fact that you're big enough to bounce off that. It's in the press
love
pack
that.
I know, it's
I
hilarious.
love that Brian Saul thing. I just find it superb.
Yeah, yeah.
He did an extraordinary one which said, why is she in the Tate? Why is she anywhere? That was why she pause, colon, fluff it out, make my own comment. I love colons.
Yeah.
Why is she anywhere? I thought it was such good writing.
Yeah.
Because he was stuck in Pusa.
Mm. When he says, why are you anywhere? That's
Why
quite
are
a
you
good...
anywhere? It's good. It's a good
It's
philosophical...
a good title for an exhibition. Why am I anywhere?
Yeah. Quite, well, anyway. I'll take you upstairs to the studio.
We'll talk about it. We're going up, right. It looks instinctive, everything that you've done, and then when I look at it, I can see
it is instinctive.
It's instinctive, and
it's organic, instinctive, and one thing comes from another, and one thing.
Yeah, you've not worked back from a theory. You've worked forward.
No, I don't
from
work from a theory. I put the theory on afterwards if I'm asked to, which I can.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's Elizabeth Taylor. Because she's got mauve eyes. I've never done mauve eyes before, and she was all over the papers.
E.T. Elizabeth Taylor. Right.
That's right, and that's Elizabeth Regina, because that's Elizabeth I.
Yeah.
So this is history here, history painting.
Right.
And on her frock was appliqued eyes and ears, which was the spying of the court at the time.
Yeah.
So she was under threat. And so I thought, well, she's always being photographed.
Yeah.
So it sort of fits together. Queen of Hollywood and Queen of...
So that's why there's eyes and ears all over it. From Queen Elizabeth I.
History.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are these pencil lines around the painted figure an initial go at
Yes, I had to go, because it's quite big. It's 12 foot. And
right.
I quite like getting the whole thing in. I mean, I like bits as well. I like cropping and cut-off and all that sort of stuff as well. But I wanted to get her in. So you have a go.
You know what? Another thing I really like looking at the works is that we can see the process, like the fact that the pencil lines are in here as the original idea of what the shape would be, but then the painted, finished version is outside the pencil lines. I like the fact that you show us the working out, the hand of the artist and the process as part of the finished piece, because I think increasingly we get these things sort of delivered to us as this done thing that you can just instantly access, and I like the fact here that you can see...
It's like reproduction furniture, because mine also have edges, because this doesn't show it, but I stick a bit of canvas onto the painting, and you can see the edge of the canvas where it's stuck, and bits of thread where it sticks up, and sort of when I make coloured lines, and they don't look like factory made, and they don't look like you bought the canvas before you start, because I haven't.
Yeah, yeah.
Which means you're much more flexible, because you can add bits. You can add bits on the bottom, everywhere, all the way around.
I have a funny thing with when I do the stand-up for television, right, they ask me, what are your 6.5 hours going to be about, right? And so I give them these texts of where I am at that point. And then, of course, the process of doing it live for 6 months is to distress it. It's basically dismantle it, move bits around. The first draft feels like proper sentences, but actually the end bit, where often there's no sentences, there's just sounds or repetition or noise or distress or incoherence. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Because the incoherence can become your absolute signature. I mean, it's great. I think it's lovely. I like incoherence, because everything's incoherent. Anyway, I mean... Do you remember your countryside? Do you remember one where you did countryside? I mean, it just stuck. I just like I think you do pick out a word that people use all the time, and then you emphasise it by repetition. Probably we do coincide a bit with repetition.
I don't know what it's like where you are, where I'm all the middle-aged, middle-class parents, or we leave in the city, we go to the countryside. And they get to the countryside, and they realise there's nothing to do in the countryside. They're absolutely bored out of their minds. Every day, the same thing. They walk out of the house, and they walk to the field behind the house, and they look at the horse that lives in the field behind the house, and they go, oh, there's the horse. He's over there. He was over there yesterday. And they walk back to the house and they argue and argue and argue because there's nothing to do, and the marriage starts to unravel and they look for some kind of distraction, but there isn't one because they live in the countryside. And in the countryside you have to book 2 months in advance to get a table at Bella Pasta. The new exhibition's called Quack Quack, and this one from 2013 is called Woof Woof, right? It might
What
be
did you think of Quack Quack as a title? I mean, when you heard it, what did you think? What was your reaction to Quack
Well, I thought
Quack?
it was funny. I liked the rhythm of it. Actually, exactly. I thought it
What
was
we're
refreshing
talking about.
that it didn't say a retrospective from 9. I thought it was sort of.
It's not pompous.
No.
It's not pretentious.
No.
And I think the thing is about it translates whatever language you're speaking. It's going to be the same since it's onomatic.
Onomatopoeia, yeah.
Also childhood, because I lived in Kensington in 1940 when I was 5, and therefore I'm going in a circular way. I'm going backwards.
Yeah.
I've done park ducks, and I've done park dogs. A political thing because the parks are being marginalised. Anyway, I think that's a bad thing. So it was the perfect title, but I just thought that no one would be happy with it, except that I can tell you the taxi drivers love it.
Yeah.
They start to drive saying it. They're going quack, quack.
Do they? Great, that's worked then.
I know, I think it has. But
What will be the next one, though?
Don't know. I think Tweet's a bit silly.
This is what a studio is supposed to look like.
Is it? What is it?
Skylights over there, and it's got exposed wooden beams covered on the floor and on 2 walls by Rosie's paintings. The floor's got a lovely crunchy texture of old newspaper all
Nice,
over
isn't
it.
it? It builds up. It's comfy,
Yeah, it's
isn't it?
beautiful, and it's very comforting room. To a layman like me, of course, it's your dream of what an artist studio would be like, and I'm absolutely delighted that it feels like work is done here. Everything's covered in spatters of paint, and also the way that you have canvases that go around corners.
It has a
Yeah.
drama. If you've got
Yeah.
pages going floor to ceiling, it's like sort of being in a theatrical situation.
Yeah.
And people say they can't have big paintings because their houses aren't big enough. But this isn't big. This is a normal sized room.
The environment all around you is your work in here, isn't it? It's sort of.
Yeah, I use the room.
You paint on the floor.
I used to.
You don't now.
I've had a hip replacement,
Right.
and you're not supposed to bend over.
Right.
For,
So that
90
one was
degrees.
done on the wall. The one.
It's
down.
been taken down.
Been
Yes,
taken
it's
down,
done.
yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
I usually do them,
Right.
and I do them there, and I do them there. You can see the sort of edges,
The accrued
and
paint.
you get very nice frames. I think too around them, little bits of paint that
Yeah.
trickle around them. It's quite nice to have a deadline. On the other hand, often you're just waiting for something to come in, and you can't manufacture. You can't
You know what?
manufacture a painting. You can't manufacture the interest that instigates, that begins a painting. And people say, how long did it take? It doesn't. It's not the point. You just start something and you think, well, how can I do this? Well, I often start from a drawing, and I've got the drawing. I'm looking at the drawing. But then it doesn't always follow. Sometimes it's close. Because I take a long time to get to the drawing. You know, you said you can spend a year and a half trying to get to something, and you can spend a long time over a drawing, but then you can suddenly ditch it and pick up another one that you've done that's just lying on the floor.
Is this in progress now?
Yeah, well, this one's
Is
done.
that fire happening? Or...
What there?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's just exciting the surface.
Right.
Get it right.
Did you paint this white grid out first on it?
I did.
Yeah.
It's to do with the diary.
Right.
I used diaries for drawing on there.
Oh, right.
See,
So because you did it from a diary,
it was on the diary, and then
you've transposed the underlying
That's
diary onto the
and
canvas.
also the odd piece of writing on the diary page, which is nothing to do with the image, but it's to do with the page of the diary. And I'm calling this painting Sagenflop, because I think it sounds like a German word.
Yeah.
Frau
Like Schadenfreude or something.
Yes.
It sounds like a condition.
But it's sag and flop.
Sag and flop.
These sag, the chests sag because they're bandos.
Right.
You may not know, sorry, what a bandeau is, but
No, I don't. I was just nodding, hoping.
well, it's the top.
Oh, this
it goes around the chest.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
And that one flops because she's lying down.
Well, that actually would change how you would look at the picture, though, because
Sag and flop.
I would find it funnier much more quickly. I wouldn't be thinking, is that a fire helmet? Which is what I thought at first. Now I'd know it's sag and flop, and it's about. I know what it's about.
This is sag. But it took a long time to get the right sag on that sag.
I can see that now.
It's to do with women being as they are rather than trying to look like a stereotypical idea of what they should look like.
Yeah.
It has much more currency for women to have sag and flop rather than sort of packing themselves out like Jane Russell with special built items.
And the A should have an umlaut over it in
Well, yeah, it
Sagenflop.
would be nice.
Yeah,
And Frau Sagenflop.
yeah. Yeah,
What is
Frau
plural Frau? Is it Fraulein? Or is it Frau's?
Frau-
With an S? I don't know.
Fräuleins, I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter if you
I
get
put
it
an
wrong,
S
does
on it.
it?
Doesn't
Do what you
matter. No,
want.
it doesn't matter. And she is Lolita. There was a girl quite a long time ago who used to clean her father's car on the forecourt.
Oh, yeah.
She used to swan around with a bikini on, playing music, smoking, dancing. She was a performer.
Here.
Yeah, she was
in
a perfect stage for her. You know,
Yeah,
cars
yeah,
going past, people looking, and we called her Lolita.
Right.
So it doesn't refer to a literary
Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
Because I often think, well, you know, paintings should stand by themselves and they shouldn't depend upon a literary connection. They should be how they look and what they are. So that's Lolita. And then out of that, I saw she could have had a smaller head. So that's
A selfie.
that's a detail.
Fantastic. That's so brilliant.
Well, she's looking. You can see
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pupil of her eyes
Yeah.
dead on that camera image.
Oh, what an interesting thing that is. Because you know what? This is something that we've not grown up with, is it selfie culture, and it's all about the,
It's
the
now-
self
it's
regarding
re-
the self.
It's
and-
it's always in a lot in painting, over and over again. And students who say, you know, look at the mirror image, the mirror image. Here's someone looking in the mirror, and we're looking at her looking in the mirror, and we're looking, you know, ad infinitum.
yeah, she's got blonde hair and she's holding a mobile phone and taking a selfie of
Yeah, her
herself.
arm has gone off here.
The one eye is covered up with the fringe, and the other eye is looking at the
Smartphone,
yeah, the smartphone.
whatever it
yeah,
is
yeah.
that she's clicking, and she's bouncing up her hair. Look
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
left to get it to look good. You know, if you do a selfie, your head comes out big, and therefore your legs diminish.
Yeah.
So she's got very small. She's smoking her fag.
I like those movement lines that are coming off
That's
the. That's
I
really
do
good.
this, but
Kind of-
that's what I say is direct language. It looks like cartoon,
yeah,
but it's also antiquity,
yeah.
and it's what children do, and it's what Matisse tells us to do. Use all your senses, not just your flipping sight. So that's excitement.
How many hours at a stretch would you be in here?
Well, it
Concentrating on
can.
one
Sometimes I can come in here, let us say at 5 in the afternoon, and then forget about the next meal, and then go on into the night. I have gone on until 3 or 4 in the morning, but not often.
Yeah.
I often stop at about 1. Because I find you're perhaps going to bed, and you come in here and you think, I've got to change it. And then you start, and once you've started to change it, then you can't, it's difficult to stop. You flick it onto your computer screen and you think, why did I change it?
It's funny. I mean, the detail that makes it is the position of the eyeball in the
Yes,
eye.
absolutely. It's the eye, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not very easy to get it in place, and you've got to.
Well, if it was anywhere else, it would be wrong,
Yeah, when
wouldn't
you
it?
take it out, then the white round it's gone purple.
Yeah.
It's a huge practical bother, but yeah, it's nice. You like it.
Yeah.
Enthusiasm is, it's kind of food, isn't it? It can, but it doesn't last long.
No.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
It can just, you can be buoyed up, and then it has no meaning after a bit at all.
It feels a real privilege to see that at this stage, because I feel like when I saw Nirvana do Smells Like Teen Spirit before it was recorded, and I thought that's going to be a massive hit. That's what I feel about this. I feel like I've been lucky to see something here and to see all the sketches around it. It's
And how it's going forward
And how
into
it's
the
going
next
forward,
one.
yeah.
And some of the drawings around it are, I'm quite happy. I do like paintings to be part of architecture. Very much Renaissance idea, and ancient Egyptian. I like ancient. I like billboard. I do conflict.
yeah,
I say I like ancient, but I actually like now
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
and a whole lot in between.
You like the past, the present, and everything in between.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no limits
Not
to
so
it.
sure about the future.
No,
Could be a bit grim, the
It's
future.
going to happen. Well,
Yeah, no, I do.
Scary, isn't it?
Yes, but what about control? Do you like control?
Do you know what? It's been a lifelong struggle for me to work out how to let things go in the work, and a huge help has been in the last sort of 20 years watching a lot of free improvised musicians, like Evan Parker actually lives in Faversham, I don't know if you know him, a saxophonist, and to see them incorporate accidents into their work has been an influence on me to the point where I feel like I owe them money. I mean, I remember seeing
Well, artists do that too. Accident is, but it's we all know about it. Accidents happens all the time with oil paint and stuff. You drop stuff, the brush falls. it comes out because you scratched it out.
What I envy about you, and I was thinking about this on the way here, is that if an accident happens in that, like the yellow paint drips down, it's happened in that moment, and then that's it becomes a part of the finished work. Where it becomes deceitful for me and false is that an accident.
It's if you do it, if you make the accident happen.
Well, an accident will happen one night, and it's really great. And I think, right, if that happens at this point, then this can happen, and then that can happen, and then I can get to there. But I need to make this accident happen, and then I become like someone doing neurolinguistic programming, and I manipulate the audience into shouting out certain kinds of things. And I know this current show, I'm doing it 240 times. It's the most I've ever done anything, and I'll never do it that much again. So I end up not with a genuine improvisation, but with the decision tree, because everything that can happen...
It's fake, and you've exploited it.
Yeah.
But what's wrong with that? I mean...
Well, that's because I'm an entertainer at the end of the day.
But it's also, if you say it's fake and you've exploited it, then it becomes part of what you do.
Yeah, well, I do tell them afterwards.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you flick something about and pretend it's fake and it isn't, that's a bit of a problem. That becomes mannerism.
Yeah, but I mean...
Everything's a problem in painting.
It would be lovely to just... It would be lovely to think, there's a drip, it's been dripped on, I'll leave it, and I haven't got to make that drip.
I've sometimes got drips, and then I've got drips that have dripped over the drip, and you get kind of multiple drips.
Yeah, well,
I like the mistake to come out of the work, which is what you're saying. It does come out of the work. It does
initially, and then that's a problem. I am a control freak.
Yes, but you're repeating. You're doing performances in a sense. I'm not in that. Well, I am. I'm doing more paintings. So.
Yeah, but they're different. It is weird. I do feel I do it because it keeps me alive, because I find it a struggle, and I try to get myself into places where I don't know how I'm going to get out of them, to frighten myself, and then that makes me to do things that I didn't know I had in me. So I think sometimes, okay, did you when you couldn't paint on the floor anymore because of your hips, did it open up a whole new load of possibilities because you couldn't do certain things that you always used to do?
Well, not hugely. On the floor, puddles. I had puddles because stuff poured and didn't run away because it was on the floor.
Yeah.
But then I used to walk on the painting and walk up to, if I was painting ahead towards the top, I would just walk up the painting and paint. Yeah. So it wasn't in perspective.
No.
But on the floor was less big boy art, because, big boy art has always been done on an easel, hasn't it?
So it
was a nice idea. It was closer to housework, what women do in a sense. I know that sounds a bit crap.
No, that's what you mean.
But you find yourself clearing up stuff off the floor. Yeah. And that's what the painting was like. And that's because it was like that, it released what you were talking about earlier. It was not painting, it was clearing the floor. You're scraping stuff off the oven.
It wasn't work.
No, it's not work, it's not painting.
Well, a job that had to be done involving you and the floor.
Something to do, that's right. Yeah. Something you do and you're going to get done, but it wasn't painting, in inverted commas.
But now the canvas is on the wall. You're like a painter, aren't you?
Well, I'm not really. You can see artists who have their paintings on the wall, they're often stretched. These aren't stretched. So I'm still in that area of not being the artist looking at his work on the wall.
Okay, then when you're painting, do you ever try to think that it's not you that's looking at it? Do you ever try to think, how would someone else interpret this? No. You're you all the time when you're doing it.
You don't think you're you. You don't think anything. See, actually, you're nowhere. You're not you, but you're not somebody else either. It doesn't come into it. I don't think at all. You just start something and you think, well, how can I do this? Well, I often start from a drawing, and I've got the drawing. I'm looking at the drawing, but then it doesn't always follow. Sometimes it's close. It can follow quite closely because I take a long time to get to the drawing. You said you can spend a year and a half trying to get to something, and you can spend a long time over a drawing, but then you can suddenly ditch it and pick up another one that you've done that's just lying on the floor. So it's the same process. Obviously similar stuff goes on.
Presumably you're painting from memory, are you, from childhood? Yes. The childhood you is a different
it is
sort
memory.
of...
It can be memory.
Yeah.
Yes, but then
that's a way of stepping outside.
But that's still you doing the memory. So, and you're doing the journey towards it, and you're thinking, but you aren't in it. Something else is going on. You're trying to get to somewhere. I tried to feel my way into a house I lived in a long time ago, and it's peculiar because you think, where was the door? Oh, yes, it was there. Now, which side was the fireplace? Because what I was trying to find out was where to put the chimney on the roof, which end of the house the chimney was. So I had to go through back to the age of 5 when I was in that house, and where did the cat sit? Where was the fire? Oh, that will have determined where the chimney is. So it was it was me, but I was not me when I was thinking back. I was going back.
Yeah.
And it was the house, it was the chimney, it was the fire, it was the house, it was, where am I going to put it?
What I find is that if I'm writing about a certain kind of thing, I find myself writing and talking about it in the Birmingham accent that I had as a child or that my grandparents had, and I realise that it's sort of easier for me to talk about nostalgia or incoherent memory if I use this voice, because obviously that's the voice that I remember hearing those things in, and I find myself slipping into it. And then in the news show I've realised, it's quite self-consciously, if I can find a way of doing this 1 20-minute bit in that voice, which was my voice, I sort of suppressed that voice when I started doing the comedy circuit in the 80s, because I didn't want to be a comedian who had to talk about a region. That was one of the options, you could be the Geordie comedian but I find it sort of comes back for nostalgia, incoherence, and I don't then write as me. I use these other kinds of words that I wouldn't normally use. But then even the stand-up persona, that's me trying to be an entertainer, and I'm not really that person. I'm not. Sort of my worst nightmare was to go on stage in a way, he has to go out there because somehow he's ended up, that's his job, that he has to go and do this thing. He doesn't, and all the shows are about him trying to do this job almost against his will in some way. And so I do sometimes feel like I create these arguments with different bits of my brain in order to make things happen. But you seem to be saying you try to eliminate all these things, and it's a much more pure response, and I'm sure it is. I wish I can't be that unself-conscious, I don't think. Yeah.
Well, I think we all are self-conscious somewhere, but...
How long have you worked in this room then?
About 30 years.
Wow.
Or so. A long time.
Was it disorientating to having worked for that many years to suddenly be acclaimed? Did it feel like it was okay?
In a way, it doesn't feel any different. But what is different is that other people's reaction to you is different.
Right.
I didn't feel any different, and you're included in things. If there's a group show somewhere of artists, then you're asked to, if you'd like to take part, be in it. Which is, yeah. I used to look and think, well, I don't know, it's nice these people get invited to be in shows. I mean, how do you do it? What have you got to do to get that? All you've got to do is to get.
Have you coped with that all right? Because I have a thing where I've got this stupid thing where any attempt to include me in anything, I feel obliged to sabotage it, and I realise that I've done that.
Do you still do that?
Yeah, I do.
What's
up to a
wrong
point.
With being included? I always thought it was rather nice.
I sort of worry.
But I've been excluded for so long, much longer than you have.
Oh God, yeah.
So that's probably to be
problem.
Included is quite intoxicating in a way. It's quite
I
something
suppose
you quite like.
I imagine that it means I won't be able to operate as a free agent if I'm obliged to sort of be part of a thing, and I realise
in a
now.
funny kind of way, you're more free because the higher up you get, the more you're allowed to do what you want.
Yeah, but I've sabotaged relationships with people. I think just in order to not have to
Maybe
be
you're
part
worried
of.
about some. Have you got some deep worry about something like that?
Well, I think it was that early 80s alternative comedy was sort of oppositional thing, and I still think the adolescent me feels that it's that quote, isn't that Groucho quote? You wouldn't want to belong to a club that would have you a member. I think I think there must be something wrong if it's going too well. I think there must be something wrong with it.
I agree. You have to be suspicious.
Suspicious, and I've done things that I look back. I think, what on earth did I do that for? Like sort of to try to make it impossible to include me in things by saying some awful thing.
But that's adolescent, isn't it? I mean, that's okay because you're not old, but
I'm 50 next year.
Yeah, but you can't.
I got a grip.
I don't know.
I've got one last question, because remember when we met before, you were wearing great trainers.
I was given them,
and
they were extremely, extremely comfortable, and I've worn them all the time since 2007, so it's 10 years. They're slip-ons, they've got laces, but I've got them so arranged that I can get my foot in, and then hook it out, and then hook into my painting shoes, which are there.
Oh yeah, covered with the paint spots of hundreds of finished works.
They get a bit stuck to them, look. In fact, they're broken in half, And they've kind of mended themselves with bits.
Just with what's been gunged into
But
them.
they're also very comfortable. Lovely. Very nice.
Okay.
Smashing.
See you.
Goodbye.
Thanks a lot.
Goodbye.
Bye.